In a time of a sustained economically depressed financial environment, it becomes imperative to take a close look at how our government spends its money. After all, the money it receives comes directly from us, the taxpayers. We have not only a right, but a duty to oversee where the money is going and to demand accountability and change where dictated. Most Americans are completely oblivious to the extreme causes and even more extreme individuals and organizations that are receiving funding each year from U.S. coffers. In many cases, the very reasons that they are receiving the money is so questionable and outrageous that they are hidden from public view. In this speech, we will attempt to examine these practices and influence you to get more involved and demand that our government rethink many of the reasons we allocate U.S. tax dollars to foreign governments and causes. Let's take a look first at the infamous stimulus bill of 2009, known officially as the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. This is a $789 billion money-slinging festival. The government itself wrote a check to spend money in ways that we still do not fully understand. As an example, let's look at the wind energy program funded by this act. According to ABC News, of the $2 billion spent so far on this program, 79% of it has went to foreign companies. Another example of questionable spending is what is becoming known as the gun walker scandal. In this extremely controversial emerging scandal, Senator Chuck Grassley, Mike Vandenberg, and others, in an article at theexaminer.com, claimed that the Department of Homeland Security, acting on behalf of the Obama administration, secretly diverted stimulus funds to purchase and provide guns to Mexican drug cartel members in an attempt to justify stricter gun laws in the U.S. On the foreign front, it seems as if one of the biggest black holes that government funds disappear into is what is titled aid to foreign countries. This broad category entails funding of all types of controversial foreign militias, not necessarily state-run. For instance, our government has consistently funded organizations fighting against established governments. Although the official government militaries may not agree with the democratic style of government that the U.S. enjoys, often the guerrilla-style militias that we fund are no better and would even be considered as terrorists had we not decided to back them in a coup attempt. Take Colombia, for instance. In 2009 alone, the U.S. sent over $200 million to Colombia. In 2006, Egypt received over $1 billion from the U.S. These numbers are staggering when you take those amounts, divide by 50 to determine how much each state in the U.S. could have gotten if the funds were given to the states to use at their discretion. And the root of the problem is the official U.S. governmental policy on foreign aid. According to the U.S. State Department, referred to in an article at wikipedia.org, the official goals of the U.S. foreign policies are, and I quote, to create a more secure, democratic, and prosperous world for the benefit of the American people and the international community. Although this sounds like a noble set of goals, it is the interpretation and implementation of the policy that leads to abuse and to misuse of our taxpayer dollars. The security aspect, for instance, can be transformed to mean anything that a sitting president and his cabinet decide that it means. This can and often has included funding of subversive insurgency militias in foreign countries, or even funding non-democratic forms of government, such as Pakistan and Afghanistan. The democracy element of the stated goals is probably one of the most controversial and can lead to what has been termed as nation building. This is the single aspect of our national policy that has caused more controversy and ill feelings toward the U.S. than any other. At the heart of the issue lies the question, does the U.S. have the right to dictate or even to influence what forms of government other countries and their people employ? Finally, there's a prosperity element of the policy. The biggest issue with this element is not the goal itself, but the severely inept way that the money is being spent in a failed attempt to address the issue. Jurisdictional goals are also included in our official government policy relating to foreign funding. Among these are policies relating to nuclear technology development and proliferation and international education. Although there are most certainly national security issues to be concerned about when imagining a rogue country possessing nuclear technology, once again it is the implementation of the policy that causes the vast majority of the problems and resulting in wasting taxpayers' dollars being spent on useless programs and organizations. In a time of a hurting economy and severe recession, how can we justify the fact that over 20% of non-U.S. students are receiving funding through U.S. colleges or universities at the direct expense of not helping U.S. citizens? For a complete understanding of the scope of the waste and misuse of taxpayer dollars by our own government, let's contrast the expenditures and programs above with our underfunded or incorrectly domestic programs. Over the last few years, the American public has been inundated with reports and justified concerns about our southern border with Mexico. Although technology exists to address this issue for some inexplicable reasons, our senators and representatives from both parties have agreed to slash the budget. Take the Mexican drug war as a further example. Since 2008, the U.S. has funded President Calderon's war against Mexican drug cartels. Although the goal is a noble goal, 4 years into this and countless millions and millions of dollars later, there are serious questions about whether our money was invested wisely or simply wasted. One of the most crucial domestic programs subject to abuse is the government-funded welfare program. Started as a program to lend a temporary helping hand to U.S. citizens in need, it has slowly been transformed into an accepted way of life for Americans and even non-U.S. citizens that is passed down from one generation to the next. The program alone has the potential to save an enormous amount of U.S. taxpayer dollars if it were to undergo a non-biased assessment and reorganization. To sum things up, we as tax-paying citizens need to become active participants in how, when, and where our government money is being spent. Much information can be learned through open record laws, but you have to know what to ask before you can make such a request. Become informed by educating yourself. Ask questions and demand concrete answers rather than political doublespeak. Finally, do not be afraid to contact your local and state and even national and federal government representatives. There are people making policy decisions on your behalf. Demand that they become more responsible and accountable to you for what they do and where they spend your money. Only by doing so will we remain in control of our government rather than allowing it to control us.